All right. Hello, everybody. This is Duke with a quick video here on the FlySky transmitter using the Openi6x firmware. So I had a student who, out of necessity, is using one of these recently, and I just want to make a quick video to show how to set up a model and kind of get it working with a FlySky receiver. So this transmitter does have ExpressLRS installed on it, but I'm not using it in this model. We're just going to focus on the FlySky part of it here. So on the table with the transmitter, I have a couple of different receivers. I have an ESC that has a BEC, so I can power the receiver up pretty easily. I have a battery to power the ESC. I have a bind plug, which usually comes with these receivers. If you don't have a bind plug for some reason, you can also use just any servo plug where you don't care about it. Basically, you can use it and create a bind plug by connecting signal and ground, just like this one is connected. Just loops over from the top to the bottom pin basically, which is signal and ground. So that's just going to show you that as well. Then I have a servo over here just so we can demonstrate that it's working once we have everything bound and set up. So we're going to look at this real quick. This is the manual for Openi6x, and it is basically this section here just happens to be the part talking about the user interface, specifically the buttons. I think the Openi6x project is really cool. The one thing that is kind of a limiting factor sometimes is trying to figure out the button navigation. Once you get used to it, you're used to it, but it is kind of like, I don't know, they're doing the best that is possible, I think, with these buttons to navigate all the menus you need. And so still works really well, but we got to get the hang of things a little bit. So on the left-hand side, we have our up-down, which are the up-down buttons, okay? And those are kind of like our scrolling, right? When we're inside the menus, we have the OK button, which is just like it sounds like OK to select. And we have cancel, which is return back. And then we have our bind button, which is also used in the pages to scroll left and right. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump back over to the radio and look at that a little bit closer here. So again, we have our OK button, our cancel, up, down, and then our bind button is actually used to navigate menus as well. So to set up a basic model and bind with one of these receivers, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to press OK, long press OK, I should say, and we'll get into the model menu. Okay, if I were to press cancel, we'll go back. If I long press the bind button, we go into the system menu. We don't really need the system menu for binding FlySky. This is just mostly for ExpressLRS usually, so we can cancel out of that. Again, we're going to long press the OK key, and now we have a 1 out of 11 page over here. I don't remember what version of Openi6x is on this radio, so take that as you may. But once we're on this page with the model menus, you can use the bind key to navigate this page function here, which we'll use for a couple things getting this set up today. So go back to 1 out of 11. Let's see, we're going to make a fresh model, brand new start. Okay, we're going to go down to model 3. I'm just going to click on that. Oops, sorry, long press on that. It's going to load model. Now we're in model 3, and now model 3 is what's selected. So if we go back, it'll typically say model 3, and you can, of course, change what it says there if you wanted to, but for now we'll leave it as model 3. And so page 1 out of 11 is just the number of models you have. Once we've selected the model that we want, okay, I'm going to say I want to pick a different model. I want model 2. I can also just select that by long pressing and say select model. Okay, failsafe's not set. That's okay for right now. Okay, whatever model you want to be in, we're going to go ahead and go page over to number 2 out of 11 now. And we're going to kind of go backwards instead of going down. We're just going to go up all the way to the bottom of the page. Okay, and in here we have a section that says internal RF. This is where we do the binding process with our receiver and our transmitter in this menu. So I'm going to scoot this over a little bit. So my receiver here, whether you have the IA10B or IA6B, they're both the same process for binding basically. There's just more ports. I'm going to use the IA6B, sorry. I'm going to grab our bind plug. Okay, and again, if you don't have a bind plug and you have an extra servo extension or something, you can just cut it. Okay, strip the signal ground off there, so they're bare. Twist them together, and that'll also work as a bind plug. Okay, it's doing the exact same thing as one of these bind plugs. Let me scoot this over a little bit more so we can see better on the table. Basically, just need to get the signal and ground wires together on a normal servo plug, or use the bind plug that comes with your receiver if you still have that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this and plug it into our receiver. I'll zoom in a little bit more here. So on this receiver, there happens to be a B/VCC note up there. If you have the other receiver, it's similar, the top there. So basically the very furthest port to the top, if we're looking at the label, okay, is going to be our bind port. So we're going to plug the bind plug into that port. This all the way. It doesn't matter which direction it goes in this case. It does matter for servos and stuff, but the bind plug doesn't matter whether you flip it around or not, because it's just taking the signal to ground. Okay. So there's that, but we need to power it somehow as well. And so for that, we're just going to use this ESC. And this ESC has a BEC, or battery eliminator circuit, so it's going to be able to power the receiver with 5 volts once we plug a battery into the ESC. So I'm just going to plug this into the receiver. It doesn't really matter which channel I use here, but this time the order orientation does matter. So with the FlySkys, there are some little teeth here. Let's kind of zoom in a little bit. Okay, we can see those little teeth along the top. Okay, that's going to be the signal side of the plug. Sometimes they're also labeled, but they're not always labeled on the stickers, which side is signal side, which side is ground, and that kind of thing. But we know that the teeth means signal side. We know that the signal side is always the lightest color wire. So it could be white or yellow typically, and that'll be the signal side. So we want to plug that up towards the teeth. And it doesn't really matter what channel for this part. We're just trying to power the receiver, and these are all tied together. So I'm just going to plug it in over here, kind of in the middle. Okay. And now, once I power up the ESC with the battery, or however you want to power it up, we should get a flashing red light here, which means it's in bind mode. Okay, so we're going to plug in there. And there's our flashing red LED, so the receiver is in bind mode. Now the fast flash is different, right? Oops, lost focus on the camera there. Fast flash is different from the normal boot up, okay, where it's kind of a slow flash. This is where it's searching for its transmitter that it's bound to. Right now we're going to bind it though, so we don't have a transmitter it's already bound to. So again, just plug this back in, plug your battery in, or power source. Now it's got the fast flash again, okay? We don't really need to have that on screen for right now, at least not entirely, so we're going to scoot back over here. I'll just leave it kind of right next to the transmitter. What we're going to see when it binds is going to go solid. Okay, there we go. All right, so now again in this menu, the setup page 2 out of 11, there is this internal RF section here. And so in the mode area, you can press OK there and it'll start blinking. You can go up or down. It's off, or it's FS2A. Those are the only two options basically. So FlySky, I think that's the AFHDS 2A is what they're trying to abbreviate here. Okay, that's the FlySky protocol for these receivers. And then if you go down, oops, let's select it first. So OK, and then we'll go down. We have PWM and iBus. Those are just the two protocols the receiver will output. That's fine. The other options there are going to be PPM, PWM S-Bus, PPM S-Bus. Basically what I'll make sure is that you have a PWM at the start there. Okay, if you have PPM, that won't work for a normal RC plane. The servos plug right in. So make sure you have PWM in there somewhere. Okay, and it doesn't really matter what the other one is for right now. We'll go back to PWM S-Bus. We'll just use that one. Okay. Servo frequency 50 is fine. Receiver number doesn't really matter too much if you just have the one plane right now. Okay. And then we'll scroll down a little bit so we can see everything else here. There we go. We have our receiver number. In this case, it's just given it number 2, which is fine. And then we have bind and range. What we're actually going to do this at this point is we're going to use the bind key to kind of scroll sideways on this menu. So until it goes to BND for bind. I'm just going to press OK. When I press OK, it should bind and this LED should go solid. There we go. Okay, solid LED. And if we press the cancel button a couple times, get back out to the main menu, and now have a little signal bar indicator here, which will turn off if we unplug the receiver. Okay, so no signal. We take the bind plug out now. Just power it back up with any port for right now. Okay, and we get a solid LED, and we get the indicator there again. So excellent. Let's go long press back into the model menu and go to the setup page. We're going to go to the bottom again. Oops. See, even I get messed up net trying to navigate this sometimes. Okay, we're going to go up. Okay. One other thing we want to focus on here is the failsafe section here. So it says not set. Now that's not good. We want to set the failsafe to do something. So let's press OK here and let's see what our options are. We have hold, custom, no pulses, receiver, and those are our options there. So basically, with a typical like basic RC plane and this setup, what you usually want to happen is you want to be able to have a throttle go to 0 and maybe have the plane turn or something, or do like a little bank so it kind of cuts throttle and circles down if you lose link for some reason. So what we'll do is we'll go to the custom one here. We're going to press bind to get, oops, that didn't work, sorry. Custom, we're going to do that. Then we're going to press the bind key and scroll over to set once we've selected custom with the OK key. Okay, once we get to set, we're going to press OK, and now we can do whatever we want with the sticks, so the controls here, and set that as the failsafe. Okay, the main one I want here is my throttle channel 3 to be at 0. Okay, not at a different value. I want the throttle to cut, so we're going to long press OK. Okay, we're going to go down here. I'm going to long press OK on channel 3, and that sets the channel 3 failsafe to -100. Okay, you notice I also accidentally set channel 1 to -10. We can get rid of that if we want to. Oops, if I can go up the right button here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so for some reason there's a little bit of trim in here on the aileron, channel 1. I don't know why. That's not going to hurt anything, but if you wanted it to be all zeros and just throttle cut, then you could set that in here. Once you've set everything in here that you want, long press cancel to save, and we should get a failsafe custom. If we go back in there, let's go press the bind button again. Okay, it's still saved, so it should go to -100 for our failsafe. And of course, you want to test that with your aircraft with no propeller installed before you go fly. But those are the main settings you want to do on the setup page. Okay, so now we're bound up. We have the transmitters connected to the receiver and everything. There's a couple other pages we want to look at just so we know what's going on here in the EdgeTX, OpenTX type menu. So we're going to long press OK again. We're going to use the bind button here to page over. So we did our setup page here. We have flight modes, inputs, mixer, okay, outputs. And those are the main pages we're going to look at. And I can't scroll backwards with this transmitter, so forgive me while I go through them all again. Okay, let's go here. So we'll start with inputs. So here in the inputs page is where you might adjust your rates in Expo. So let's say I wanted to do dual rates or something like that. Okay, go into my ailerons. Here I'm going to long press and then press edit. Okay, now we're in the aileron input page, and we can see as we move the aileron stick, this little crosshairs goes left and right. Right now it's just fully linear. There's no expo or anything. That's just a straight line from left to right. And for some reason we still have some trim in here on the ailerons. That's okay. Let's X out and get rid of that real quick. I don't know why. These are your trim indicators here. They're all centered, so I'm not sure why we're getting some drift on that, but we'll go and look at that one more time. So let's go into our menu, page over till we get to inputs, down to our ailerons, long press, edit. Okay, so now here we have the weight and we have expo. So if we scroll down to weight and click OK to select it, we can now go up or down and adjust the weight. So let's say we want our rate to be 70, okay? And there's our 70, so now we see the line doesn't go to 100, it just moves to 70 and -70 basically in the x-axis, okay? So we can hit OK, and then we can go down to Expo, and we can select that, and we can kind of scroll, whoops, sorry. I didn't want a custom. Okay, there we go, Expo, and we go, how do we get over there? There we go, sorry, the bind button to get it over from Expo to the 0. We can then select that, and we can go up or down. And if we increase the Expo, we see the line becomes more exponential, as in there's a flatter spot in the middle, and it's an exponential curve. So we still get up to 70 and -70, but we have this larger kind of flat area or a dead area in the middle where it doesn't really do anything. Okay, so I don't know if you'd want to go with 100 expo, but giving yourself some expo can definitely help the sticks not feel so touchy or twitchy when you're flying. Okay. And then we have our expo. Let's just say it's set to, I don't know, 50, something like that. So a little bit less touchy in the middle, for example. We hit OK. And now as we move the stick, we still get negative 70 and positive 70. Okay, but there's a little bit more of a flat spot in the middle there where you don't get as much movement because it's an exponential curve. Okay, so that would be adjusting a rate on our ailerons there. Okay, if we go down further, okay, switch. Oops, sorry. Switch. Okay, so if we hit OK here, we can select a switch. So I'm going to flip, like, let's say I'm going to flip this switch up here, SC. Okay, SC, right? So we can set this to be according to a switch, basically. So if I have my switch set, let's say it's set to up, and that's this setting here. So now if I move my stick, I get that there when it's up. And if we go back a page here, and we have SC turned on, that's engaged. Okay, now it's not engaged. See how it highlights it? Engaged, not engaged, engaged, not engaged. So if you want to have like dual rates, one way you could do it is you could go to your aileron again and say long press. We're going to insert after. Okay, and we have ailerons again, and now it's at 100 and 0. And we go down, we just leave all this stuff by itself. And we're going to go down to switch. And we're going to switch it down this time. Okay, and then we're going to press OK. We're going to cancel back. Okay, so now we have, let's scroll up a little bit here. There we go. So now we have two lines in the aileron category. When the switch is down, we have 100% rate and no expo. When the switch is up, we have 70% rate and 50 expo. So there's, let me zoom back out so you can see the switch a little bit. I just happen to use this switch right here. You can use other switches or even one of these knobs or something if you wanted to. And you can see again as we switch, it gets bolded in the area that we're selecting. Okay, so hopefully that helps with the dual rates type setup. You can do that for any of these, so aileron, elevator, you probably wouldn't do it for throttle, but maybe rudder, and you can just add additional items before or after each line, and so you can set it up really however you want. Any of the switches and things can be used really once you have that dashed line. Let's go back and look at that real quick. Edit. So there's a dashed line. Before I turned it on to SC, there's a dashed line there as well. If you wanted to change the switch for some reason, you just click it so it's blinking. And then whatever you flip or spin or whatever you're going to do, it will pick up on that. So if we have this over here and we say, oh, I'm actually going to use this one. Oops, that's not turned on. Sorry, let's try this one. SD. Okay, so now SD is going to control it. If you want to use SD, that's fine. SC, back to how we had it before. Okay. Let's zoom back in. All right, so we're going to cancel out of there. All right, so again, we still have our dual rate set up for aileron, and this process would be the same for any other inputs. Okay, so we're going to kind of cancel to get back to the page highlighter thing here. We're going to go over a page here. The mixer you probably won't really need with a basic RC plane. You're just modifying the inputs mostly. And I can't think of anything else you need on here. If you're using FlySky, you don't need an arming switch or anything. So we'll continue to, let's go page over here to the outputs page. Okay, this is where you would reverse channels. So if you need to reverse, say, your ailerons or something like that, this is where you would do that. You can see here on this section, there's all, sorry, backlight turns off. There's all these arrows pointing to the right. If there was an arrow pointing to the left, that would indicate at a glance that that channel was reversed. Okay, there's other things you can do in this page as well. We'll look at it. Let's say my aileron channel needs to be reversed. Okay, so I go to channel 1 because that's our aileron. Okay, remember AETR, aileron, elevator, throttle, rudder. That's the default channel order on these receivers, this system. We're going to long press and go into edit. And then here we can name it. We don't need to name it probably, but you can name it aileron if you wanted to. And you can go down here and direction. See how those three lines are there? If we press OK, I and V for inverted. Okay. And that's all we need to do if we want to reverse the channel. There's other settings down here we're not going to worry about for right now. Sorry. The main ones you will look at are min, max, and inverted. So let's go ahead and cancel this real quick, like to save it. If you long press cancel, it'll save. We have the arrow going the opposite direction as the other arrows. So now that channel would be reversed. If we go down and select a channel, just kind of highlight over it. We don't have to click anything, just highlight over it. It'll give us the value of that channel. So as I move the stick, 1858 to 1142. Okay. So the right is lower and the left is higher, which is opposite of what it should be, by default. If you need to reverse it, though, that's what you would want. So if we go to channel 2, for example, which is our elevator, we go down, it goes lower. We go up, it goes higher. Okay. I'm not sure why my channel 1's got these screwy values. Typically, you'll see 988 to 2012 on these radios when they're on Openi6x. But that would be the normal. Low is low, high is high. Low should also be left, and high should be right, unless you reverse the channel. Okay. So something else you might need to do in there, besides reversing the channel, is adjust the sub-trim or the min and max values. So sub-trim is kind of like trim before you fly. So if your surface is a little bit off and you can't adjust it mechanically, you always want to adjust it mechanically first by getting this distance between this is a control horn from like a wing or something. Getting the distance correct, you always want to get the distance correct first and make sure your servo's centered and all that stuff. The physical setup is as perfect as you can get it. But if you can't make any other adjustments physically, then you can adjust the sub-trim a little bit to get a better center point, so your control surface is centered. And so if you click on this, you can just go up or down, and this would add. See the value there? It's going down because the channel is reversed. And if we reduce this value to a negative number, it continues to go up. So you can see it's just making small adjustments to that value, and so that will give you a slightly better center on your elevator, ailerons, or whatever you're doing. So sub-trim is for adjusting that center point, and then your min and max are for adjusting the endpoints. So let's go ahead and press OK. So let's say my min and max is too much. I want to limit it in the software for whatever reason. My elevator moves too much, so I can limit that here by changing the negative 100, 100 to being less than that or more than that. So I can go to the minimum can be less, right? Its max is negative 100, and the max limit is 100, but it can go less than that. Okay. Now, if you're adjusting your rates and stuff, you won't need to limit the servos here. You just be using your rates to limit the amount of throw, your rate, and your weight of the channel, I guess. But if you need to physically limit it for some reason, like it's causing interference with another part of the aircraft, if it ever moves that far, it might get damaged. You could limit it in the software here, so it wouldn't go that far. All right. So let's take our servo here, and we're going to plug into channel 1, which is our aileron channel. Okay. Just so we see this is working here, we have our control, and we move the stick back and forth, and we get movement on our servo. Okay, so everything's bound, should be working. And there's one last thing I want to show you in the radio, and that is, let's see, cancel out of this. We're going to press cancel once more to get back to the page number. We're going to page over, past curves, past logical switches to special functions. Okay. There are other ways to set a throttle cut in the EdgeTX, OpenTX firmware, but I'd often use this one. So I'll just go into a special function here. So I go down to one of these hyphens. I'm going to press OK, so it's blinking. And then I'm going to flip a switch. In this case, I like to use my left-hand switch. It's a 2-position, so it would be switch A. I'm going to flip that. And now we have SA, and it shows that it's going down, because I just flipped it down. If I flip it up, we can have it in the up position. Basically, it's saying if SA is up, we're going to do something. Or if SA is down, we're going to do something. Now, I want to do something when SA is up because that's the default position for the switches. So when I turn my transmitter on, it's going to yell at me if these aren't in the right position already. So I might as well have it switch up, be throttle cut, and then when I flip my switch down, I'm ready to fly. And the throttle is hot as soon as I flip the switch down. Okay. So we're going to have SA up, and we're going to go ahead and press OK there, and we're going to scroll over. Oops, sorry, wrong scrolling function again. Nope. SA up. Sorry. Press OK. So it's not blinking, but still in that row. And we're going to press the bind key to go over. And we're going to do an override. So leave override there. But we're not going to do channel 1. We're going to do channel 3 because channel 3 is our throttle channel. So we're going to press OK here. So it's blinking. And then we're going to go ahead and go up. Channel 3. We're going to press OK. So it's not blinking. And we're going to press the bind key to go over to 0. We're going to press OK there. And then we're going to reduce this down to negative 100. That would be 0 throttle. Okay, and press OK there. We're going to press the bind key once more to go over the little box there. We're going to press OK to check the box so it is turned on. And then we can go ahead and we can press cancel to save. Okay, and this little square up here will appear sometimes. That's because it's still saving settings. So once it disappears, everything's saved. But if you do something, go back to the screen and turn your transmitter off before the square has disappeared, the settings won't be saved. Okay. So let's go back in and check that. Oops, we're going to long press OK. We're going to page over until we get to the special functions. And here his SA override 3 negative 100 is turned on. So to demonstrate that one, we're not going to use a motor here because I don't have a motor handy. We're going to go ahead and take our servo though and plug our servo into channel 3 just to demonstrate this. Okay. So right now, the switch, let's see, get this here in frame here. The switch is up, which means the throttle will not do anything to the servo. It wouldn't do anything to the motor if it was a motor, which is what it would normally be. Okay. But if I flip it down, now our throttle is hot. Channel 3 is enabled. So as I move this, we're going to get movement on the servo. All right. So I'm using a servo, but again, this would be where your motor, your ESC is plugged into here on channel 3, typically. So this would be oh yeah, my motor is spinning up. Full throttle, 0 throttle. Once I flip the switch, it doesn't do anything. So it's overriding channel 3 to negative 100, which would be 0 throttle on a motor, typically. All right. Okay. I think we've about covered everything you'll need to set up a basic RC plane here. And that should be all the menus you would need. Again, if you need help with other things that you haven't seen in the video and aren't understanding, you can always just Google search EdgeTX how-to or OpenTX how-to, whatever you want to do, and it will give you some tips there. Lots of information about OpenEdgeTX on the web. And once you've mastered the navigation with the buttons that are different on the i6x than most Open or EdgeTX radios, you'll have a good handle on it. So, hope this helps. Thanks.